Ever seen one of those massive 18-wheelers barreling down the highway? Makes you wonder about the training it takes to handle one of those beasts, huh?
Oh, absolutely. It's no walk in the park, that's for sure.
Well, get this. Today's deep dive, we're all about the people behind the wheel of those big rigs. We're going to dig into the nitty-gritty of CDL training. And let me tell you, there's been a major shakeup in the industry with these new federal requirements.
You got that right. We're talking about the 2022 entry-level driver training mandates, ELDT for short. Bit of a mouthful, I know.
ELDT, got it.
But trust me, it's a game changer. This thing represents a huge shift in how we get truck drivers ready for the open road,
Okay, so for those of us who don't spend our days obsessing over trucking regulations.
which is probably most people, to be fair.
Right. Could you give us a quick rundown of what this CDL training even is?
Yeah, of course. So CDL, it stands for Commercial Driver's License. It's what you need if you want to be behind the wheel of those big rigs, school buses, tanker trucks, you name it. Basically any big commercial vehicle. And CDL training. Well, it's all about giving those aspiring truckers the knowledge and the skills, to operate those vehicles safely. Like, we're talking about inspecting the vehicle, those tricky handling maneuvers,
Yeah, I can imagine.
hours of service regs, and of course, safe driving practices above all.
Makes sense. Got to make sure everyone out there on the road is safe, right? But, I did hear through the grapevine that some pretty big changes went down recently. Didn't the government step in and make things a lot stricter with the training?
You heard right. And that's where these ELDT mandates I mentioned come in. They're setting a new standard, a higher bar, if you will, for CDL training across the country. The goal is to have more qualified drivers out there.
So it's not just about clocking in those hours behind the wheel anymore, eh?
Not at all. We're talking about a more well-rounded approach, really, both theory and practical instruction, and each of those has got to meet specific curriculum requirements.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. What does all this actually mean for the companies out there running their own in-house CDL training programs? I imagine this caused a bit of a stir in the industry.
Oh, you can bet it did. Big time. You see, initially there was just a ton of confusion. Some companies, they got the wrong end of the stick and thought, well, that's it. We can't train our own drivers anymore. But that's not exactly the case.
Oh, really? So they can still run their own programs?
Yeah, they can. The key, though, is that those programs got to fall in line with these new FMCSA standards. That's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, by the way.
Okay, FMCSA standards. For the folks at home who aren't swimming in trucking regulations every day, what do those standards actually mean for companies trying to make sense of all this?
In a nutshell, it's about being able to show, black and white, that their training program covers all the bases. It's got to be comprehensive, thorough, and meet all the criteria. Gone are the days when you could just stick someone in the passenger seat for a couple weeks and call it good. We're talking documented curriculum, instructors who know their stuff, and you got to have a system in place to keep track of each driver's progress.
Sounds like a lot to handle.
It can be.
So essentially, it's about raising the bar for everyone, creating a new gold standard, right?
Exactly. Leveling the playing field, if you will. Now, naturally, with all these new rules and regulations, some businesses are feeling a little overwhelmed.
I can imagine.
And that's where companies like CDL Solutions ND come in. They're really stepping up to help businesses navigate these choppy waters.
Yeah, CDL Solutions ND, I've heard that name floating around. They're like the gurus, the go-to experts for anything and everything related to navigating this CDL training maze, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. This company, they specialize in helping businesses understand and actually implement training programs that are fully compliant with these new ELDT mandates.
So let me get this straight. Instead of companies having to decipher all the legalese themselves and build new training programs from the ground up, they can just phone up CDL Solutions ND and they handle it all.
That's the gist of it. They offer a whole suite of services. We're talking pre-approved curriculum materials, training for instructors so they're up to speed. They even have this learning management system. Pretty neat, actually. It tracks the driver's progress and spits out automated reports to make sure everything's kosher, compliance-wise.
Wow. It's like a one-stop shop for getting those training programs up to snuff.
Pretty much.
But what really piques my interest is this whole idea of ongoing support that they mention. What's that all about? What does that look like in practice?
Ah, see, that's where they really shine. CDL Solutions ND, they're not the type to just set you up and then vanish into thin air. They stick around. Regulations change all the time. and new best practices pop up. CDL Solutions N&D, they help these companies stay ahead of the curve.
I bet that's a load off a company's mind.
Oh, absolutely. And it can involve a whole range of things, like updating the curriculum so it reflects the latest rules of the road, giving access to webinars on like new training techniques, or even doing periodic audits just to make sure the program's still running smoothly and meeting all the requirements.
Peace of mind.
Yeah,
That's got to be worth its weight in gold for businesses that are already juggling a million other things.
you said it. And what I find really interesting about this whole thing is that this shift towards more strict standards, more structured training, it could actually change the entire trucking industry for the better.
Really.
Yeah.
You're talking about changes beyond just, checking boxes to stay compliant.
That's right. Think about it. You've got a workforce that's more rigorously trained than ever before. That could lead to safer roads, fewer accidents, heck, maybe even fewer supply chain disruptions.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. It's not just about avoiding penalties. It's about having this new generation of drivers who are skilled and responsible.
Exactly. And that's something worth thinking about, really. Could these ELDT mandates be like the catalyst for some big positive change in the trucking industry? Like down the line, could we see a future where truck drivers, they're not just compliant, they're highly skilled and respected professionals?
Now that's something to ponder.
It is, isn't it?
Fascinating stuff. Thanks for breaking it all down.
Anytime. Glad to do it.